one more thing that I got to bitch about, and it is MasterCard. Now, this has been going on for a while, like a decently long while. And this kind of came to a head recently because of the motherless situation. So for those who don't remember, the motherless situation was CNN not doing its due diligence, and me, by extension, not doing my due diligence, and propagating a conservative Christian radical organization that was trying to ban porn everywhere through the narrative that there was a website called Motherless that had fetish content on there that involved non-consent. Now, is it true that all porn websites likely have some content on there that is non-consensual? Yes. Just like on YouTube, there are prank videos where people are like actively getting hurt. There's going to be a non-zero amount of disgusting content on a website that involves human beings putting shit out there. But the narrative that was attempted for this was that it was actually part of a secret ring of thousands upon millions of people who were drugging their wives and raping them, which turned out to not actually be the case. That's not what was really going on. What was really going on is there was a single chat room that had 100 people in it maximum that were doing this, and that was supposed to be emblematic of the entire website, and that's not what was going on. Jessa says, it looks to pass the amendment in North Carolina. Great. Fantastic. Shoot me. So I bring that up because we need to talk about Collective Shout. Collective Shout is one of the Christian radical organizations that are actively trying to strip away rights from women that just so happens to be headed by this ghoul. Now, despite the fact that she would be functionally immortal in the Fallout universe, I think we need to accept the fact that every single person that tries to pull the whole don't listen to men, only listen to women when it comes to women's issues, every one of you is wrong, because people like this and Riley Gaines exist. Just having the gender is not a good metric for being correct. We're going to get into this, but first, because this is going to be about sex work, I think it's probably a good idea to show some fan art. And it's going to be risque fan art. Technically, this fan art is actually not about me. This fan art is about my girlfriend, Saki. And that art is this one right here. This one is from Pernia, and it is Saki in a plug suit a la Evangelion. And you know what? I have problems. And so do you. Every single one of you. They said yes, again, yes. Look, seeing fan art of my girlfriend makes me happy. So, that is the one bit of levity that I get before talking about this shit. Anywho, as always, thank you very much for dropping your fan art in the fan art section. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, please feel free to drop it into the Discord. If you want to find the Discord, go to Twitch and hit !Discord. Said, I have one more question after topic. After topic, I'm going to be heading away because I need to help a friend with his dogs. So you can send it to me in DMs. Just as this is all a bit much, love and stay safe. Also, someone correct Suris on what I said, because that is big not what I said. Okay. And it said, oh, fuck, okay, we have problems, it's a new thing. No, it's not a problem. I mean, it's not a new thing. No, all of you have problems, and this is not new. Collective Shout is actively, as an advocacy organization, trying to push MasterCard to get rid of people's ability to pay for sex work. Now, this is not a new problem. MasterCard's been trying to do this for the past 5 years or so, and this is a combination of Collective Shout and people who are in league with the Seven Mountains Mandate nut jobs. For those who don't know, the Seven Mountains Mandate is the idea that there are 7 pinnacles of society, and those need to all be dominated by Christian organizations or Christian influence in order to help bring about the fucking apocalypse. I wish I was kidding, but it is quite literally, we won't get the second coming of Christ unless we control all of these aspects of society. Collective Shout is actively aiding and abetting in that shit. Now, let's take a look at the petition that has been going on in regards to MasterCard. Said, MasterCard, sex work is work and your unjust policy. The policy itself imposes strict and invasive requirements on adult content websites using MasterCard's financial service, including pre-approval of all content before publication, forbidding certain search terms, and monitoring the age and identity verification process for all performers. Now, this is the type of thing that sounds reasonable on paper, but in reality, it's just a violation of everybody's privacy. Also, there is a inadvertent side effect to this, and it is that we are, for some fucking reason, handing the reins of morality to the banks Why would we hand the reins of morality to the people who control money? Like, what do they have in terms of a moral compass at all? Well, they have Collective Shout. They have Ghoul McGee here. So this is Melinda Tankard-Reist. She is supposedly an advocate for women and girls' rights. She calls herself a feminist. She's the founder of Collective Shout. However, it turns out that she is anti-sex work, anti-abortion. The further down this I look, she's actually very anti-woman. Every single right that a woman would have to protect herself or be able to sustain herself in an environment that is increasingly hostile to its workers, she doesn't want any of those people to have proper protections. She wants to remove those, all of them. The stated intent for the MasterCard thing is to prevent sexual abuse material and other non-consensual content, but the policy only applies to websites that host adult content, when all available evidence indicates that these problems proliferate across all kinds of sites. In reality, all MasterCard's policy actually does is make it harder for platforms to host adult content, destabilizing the website that sex workers use to make a living. Now, can I tell you about something that happened years ago? 5 years ago, OnlyFans tried to ban porn. Let me make that entirely fucking clear. OnlyFans, the porn website where people pay for porn. OnlyFans tried to ban porn off of its own website. And you know why they tried to do it? MasterCard. They tried to do it because of MasterCard. They, and don't get me wrong, payment processors, these guys are fucking scum. They actively make life harder for every creator in every creator space, not just the adult ones. Apple, due to its agreements with its payment processors, is actively fucking over every user that uses Patreon. Creators who do Patreon full-time often have to rely on the per-creation model in order to make enough money to have a living wage. However, Apple is forcing Patreon to choose between either not being hosted on iOS devices or adhering to their payment processing guidelines. And their payment processing guidelines don't allow for anybody to do a per creation model. They only allow for payment per month. Now, why the fuck Apple thinks that they get the authority over that is beyond me. But Patreon said that they were going to comply, and then they rubber banded on all the creators saying that they wouldn't comply, and now they've rubber banded back and said that in November they are going to comply. And we are actually going to have this happen. Now, for me, what that means for me specifically is that starting in November, I probably will not be making a living wage anymore. The majority of my income comes from Patreon. And if it turns to a monthly amount, the way that that would shrink any money that actually comes to me, as far as the math works out from what I've seen, it'll cut me down to a third of my current revenue, which means that I will no longer be able to survive on this platform. It just won't happen, which sucks, but what the fuck am I going to do about it? The only thing I can do is tell people on Patreon, hey, please change your per creation thing to per monthly and calculate the amount that I would normally do. I do 4 blogs per week per month on Patreon. Calculate that shit yourselves. Otherwise, I get screwed. And I feel like that's not fair to the people who are supporting me on Patreon to try to get every single one of them to wrestle with Patreon and change the way that they handle their own budgeting. So I'm already fucking pissed at payment processors because I'm already living in a world where payment processors are going to be able to dictate whether or not I get to live doing my job that I've done for almost a decade. But people like, again, this fucking ghoul want to make sure that everybody in every creative industry gets hurt. And don't worry, at least in her case, it's to protect the children. Now, again, this is the same person that pushed the motherless conspiracy, the one that CNN jumped on, the one that Taylor Lorenz had to actually do a takedown on, the one that was literally a just giant fucking grouping of lies. This person uses those tactics to get these people to tell you that you're not allowed to fap to pretty girl. Now, this obviously has a lot of different ways that it affects me and people I care about. I have a decent handful of friends who work in the adult industry, and they are very, very dear to me. Not because they work in the adult industry, but because they're fucking human beings that deserve the decency of being able to make a living wage. But don't worry, MasterCard gets to tell you that you're not allowed to do that because some random Christian advocacy organization told them that boobies are bad. And so don't. It is insane to me that we live in a world where people freak the fuck out about Anita Sarkeesian being a consultant on Slay the Spire. That's what people freak the fuck out about, but this is a thing going on. This is a thing actively happening right now that actually fucking matters. Sweet Baby Inc. exists. Oh no, they consulted people and they had writing staff on a game or two, and that makes me mad. Don't worry, there are people whose actual living wages are getting ripped away from them because some random Christian organization wants to make sure MasterCard isn't able to actually do anything. Seven Mountain Mandate's great, everybody. That sex workers' livelihood shouldn't depend on the whims of corporations. Numerous banks and companies already single out sex workers, forcing them to pay higher fees and interest rates, and public platforms like PayPal and Venmo continue to boot sex workers off their platforms with little due process. Laws and policies like these that criminalize and stigmatize sex work make sex workers more vulnerable to abuse by clients, law enforcement, and others who target and harass sex workers or those who are perceived as sex workers, particularly trans women and trans women of color. Now, I am going to go ahead and say right now that saying the particulars of this might not work in your favor because the people who are advocating for this also don't like trans women and might not like brown people. But I guess we have to do the quick lesson on intersectionality to understand why this matters. Intersectionality is the idea that there are intersections of oppression, and you may be a white male, but if you're a white male who's polyamorous, then there is going to be a level of oppression or discrimination that is thrown at you as a result. If you are a woman and you are white and polyamorous, well, I guess now you're going to have to deal with the polyamory and the woman part. If you are a woman who is brown, now you have to deal with the fact that there's a higher likelihood the police are going to shoot you. So congratulations, you have a line of oppression there. And if you happen to be trans, then congratulations, you might not even be able to have access to HRT because Marjorie Taylor Greene once said it was bad. Intersectionality is the idea that we all have aspects of ourselves that can be targeted by powers that be. And the more of those aspects that can be targeted you have, the worse you have it off for yourself. So I guess the example of a trans woman of color, this is the type of person who is going to be affected probably the most by this. Oh, yeah, maybe I should also add in that, I am dating a trans woman who is a Native American with Japanese in her blood, so definitionally, she fits this category. And she has an OnlyFans that she uses to pay for things that are important to her. So it's almost like this is also something that I have a slight modicum of expertise in, only because I happen to be living with somebody who falls under all of these fucking categories all at once. Avel says, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said a lot of things. Yeah, she has. And most of them have been wrong. Most of them have been incorrect. MasterCard's latest actions are only a continuation of this history of discrimination, and it must be stopped. Sign this petition telling MasterCard to reverse its discriminatory policy now. I am already upset when PayPal tries to do this. I'm already upset when MasterCard tries to do this. I'm already upset when Apple tries to do this. But it's all happening at once, and it keeps happening at once. And by the way, remember, MasterCard will play fucking stupid about this. Because when MasterCard was held to the fire, when their feet were held to the fire, about them trying to dictate the morality of certain not safe for work games as a payment processor that works with Steam, while Valve would say that, well, no, the payment processors were the ones directly telling us that we weren't able to do things, MasterCard tried to play fucking dumb and said, well, no, actually, we aren't doing that. We're just trying to make sure that things are within the law of the various areas that exist, which means that if somewhere randomly you are not allowed to have adult material, then MasterCard gets to say, well, we just don't get to have it anywhere. That's what was fucking happening. They try to go, oh, we haven't evaluated any game or required restrictions on any activity. Meanwhile, Valve is going, that's not exactly completely true. That's not exactly what's happening. And as evidenced by the fact that you're doing that with adult content, I don't think we can believe any fucking thing that comes out of your mouth. At all. Also, this comes from a year ago. In a statement to Kotaku, a spokesperson for Valve said that while MasterCard did not communicate with them directly, concerns did come through payment processor and banking intermediaries. They said payment processors rejected Valve's current guidelines for moderating illegal content on Steam, citing MasterCard's Rule 5.12.7. So MasterCard is going to play dumb every single fucking time that their feet get held to the fire here, because they're going to have some consultant organization or some intermediary involved, and they're going to be like, we didn't do it. No, it was Jim from the accounting firm over down the way. Jim, who we hired to do this, to look at our policies and use the rules we wrote in order to do this. I love living in a free country, guys. I absolutely adore living in a free country, because the longer I live in a free country, the longer I realize none of us have any fucking idea what freedom means. Not a single one of us. But don't worry. Payment processors should be the government that tells you what's moral. And the United States Republican Congress should be the entity that tells you whether or not abortion's moral. Have fun, everybody. But, again, there is a petition about this. You can sign the petition. It's from the ACLU. If you do not see the petition yourself because you're not in my Twitch chat, but there's a link to it right there in the Twitch chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go to action.aclu.org and you will be able to find the MasterCard petition there, and you can sign it there. Also, this is where the DSA comes in helpful. Because the more people we have on the ground, the more people we have who are in local forms of government, the harder it is for payment processors like this to exert carte blanche authority. So he says, I remember being hugely into porn and then turning around and going, women shouldn't be objectifying themselves, and all it took for me to go back on that stance was one of my exes pointing out my hypocrisy. Yeah, remember, women shouldn't objectify themselves, but we also live in a capitalist hellscape where sometimes you get people who, especially disabled women, who don't have the ability to make money for themselves in many other ways, who end up having to go the influencer or the porn route, or they're an influencer who has to go the porn route as well for supplementary income. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's all okay. It's all okay. Man, I'm sorry to be so angry in these ones, but it's my Friday, and I have to go take care of a friend's dogs. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here, each and every one of you. And sorry for being such a Debbie Downer in these couple of episodes. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagittarius, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.